Before I start with today's profile, I'm going to give a quick shout out to my boy Kyle, who hooked me up with this deck. This is one of my old school decks I ran when I first became competitive again back in 2014, late or early 2015. So today, I'm actually going to bring you one of my favorite decks, which is Tellarknights. I played this back in the Duelist Alliance format because I couldn't afford Dante's, and these kind of just fell in my lap over time. When Alphas dropped and Denebs dropped after the ban list, I picked him up as like the deck that was like, hey, this deck didn't get touched, and the card Exciton Knight, which was like a $75 card at the time, was like my big paywall for this deck. So now, after that, I picked up the deck, fell in love with it, and was playing competitively and topping a couple of low events every now and then. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, we got 3 Deneb. This is your summon. This thing says on summon search. You play 3 of this at all times. 3 Unakalai. This is probably the worst summon in the deck, just because like this is what you only want to see this really turn 1, so you can dump the Deneb and then revive it off of Call the Haunted to get your Altair, and then go with your 3 card Xyz monster loop. But other than that, this is like your basic starter. It doesn't really do anything, but you just do see this turn 1, and then you search it when you have nothing else to do. 3 Altair. This thing says summon my big freaking Trevor every single turn, and loop your entire board. So you play 3 of this at all times. 2 Vega. Sometimes you want to summon from your hand, other times you dump this to the graveyard because you have no other targets. I only play the basic 11. I don't really think there's that... Like, Alsam is not really worth playing right now. It's interesting in new time rules, and like you could test it, and I've tested it in the past, but it's just okay. Like if you wanted to cut an Unakalai for it, you could probably do that, but other than that, it's just kind of meh. For the spells, 3 Skybridge and 1 Genesis. You don't need more than this. You don't ever resolve this. The only reason you play this is that so you don't have to pitch card out Twin Twister, and this is what fixes your hands. So like if you just have like an Unakalai, you can activate, or you can Unakalai effect, chain this, targeting the Unakalai. Summon your Altair, send the Deneb, and then you have your loop going. So this is pretty good. It's just kind of like it makes your bad hands bad or worse, but this thing just kind of just saves your butt when you need it. So that's it for the Tellarknight spells. You don't need any more. 3 Call by the Grave. This deck loses to hand traps more than anything. Getting your first Deneb Ash basically just says game over, so if you can hit this, it's really nice. For the draw spells, 3 Desires. So this is like the one deck that has 3 of everything that I'm almost certain I'm probably going to cut this from. Just because like you can't hit any of your Altair at all. Otherwise you lose most of your grind game unless you have like... Unless you draw into like Call the Haunteds and Oasis, you really just don't want to do that. I might turn this into something else in the future. I don't really know what it would be. I don't want to run Card of Demise because it's just kind of like, It's only really good turn 1, and I don't think I'm running enough traps to run multiple of it, so I'm just running 3 Desires for now. 2 Duality. You only want to see this turn 1, and then never again, because after that you'll just be making Trevors every turn, and then you don't really need this. And then 1 Upstart. Doesn't matter, just an extra slot. 1 Rhoda, 1 Foolish, and Reborn. Just basic spells. This is what gets your Deneb in turn 1, so you can open Altair without having to have like a Skybridge or something to make it have value. This is Rhoda. I would play 5 of this if I could, and then Monster Born it's another Altair. It gets your combo started if you need it to. For the traps, I'm actually playing a lot less traps than a lot of other people are. I don't think this deck really needs them anymore. So the theory with this deck is that game 1, you go first, set a bunch of traps, then you just blow out your opponent. Game 2, you actually side out a lot of these for like Evenleys, hand traps, things like Veilered Ash, stuff like that. Just stuff you can do on turn 2, or so that you can do when you're going second. This is really good in turn 1, but that's about it. The best use I've ever gotten out of this is you flip this on your Trevor after it gets like, or if your opponent tries to like Veiler the Trevor, you can just slam this, negate it, draw a bonus card, and then get all your dudes to float again, which is really nice. So this could probably cut down on, but I like it at 3, and I have them in German. So 3 Call the Haunteds and 2 Oasis. These are your revival spells, and even if they're dead, like you still get resources out of them because you can just Trevor bounce them all back and then revive your entire graveyard. So this is really nice. 3 Fiendish Chain. Same reason, except this doesn't revive anything. This is just more defense. That's just loopable. I've considered whether I want to play this or if I want to play Fogblade because it has the extra advantage of just hitting your Trevor and then just letting it sit there so that you don't die. Though Trevor being able to float is like the big reason why you don't ever actually need it. And you don't ever run Phantom Knights, so there's just no point to picking him up. So I went with Fiendish Chain for this list. For the last spells, or excuse me, last traps, 2 Heavy Storm Duster. Like, if you don't have Genesis, this is the next best thing, because you don't ever actually use your battle phase for anything more than 2100 damage. Like, maybe back when we had Rongo Bongo, we would, but other than that, no. And then 1 Pure Lorder. So, this thing is actually really interesting in testing. You actually don't pay for cost, or your maintenance cost on this all that much. You just do it, because you can flip this on your own, or on your opponent's turn during their main phase, then bounce it during your main phase, so you only pay 700 per turn, and you can just flip this again on their main phase. So you're basically cutting the maintenance cost in this in half, so it's up twice as long. So it's really nice, though. Though this is one of the cards that you side out first when you're going, or when you plan to go second. So that's it for the main. For the extra deck, this could probably be better. I'm not gonna lie. So 3 Trevor. This thing is your big. You make a lot of times it sucks to make this turn 1, but you kind of have to because this is your only really turn 1 play thing other than like Bagooska Pass, but that actually bites you in the butt way too much for me to play it. So you can actually just, if you have an alpha, you slam this, loop a card out of your opponent's hand, then you can just have it, or blow it up, and then float into a bunch of dudes. 2 Battlemaeus, this is so you can turn Altair, or just any monster plus, what's it called, Skybridge into this, and then you can make Trevor for free. Though be careful with this, though. You actually end up having this with no materials quite often, just because if you can't out it yourself, then you usually have to like link it into it, and you only have one real option to do that, but we'll get to that in a bit. 1 diamond, just because you can make it. It's ulti, not gonna lie. 1 Deltaros, I don't have this in Ghost. Sadness. But this thing is just like basic spot removal that summons from the deck when it dies. So you can sometimes just, this comes up every now and then, and plus you can make diamond over it, so it's okay. 1 Tornado Dragon. This is just kind of basic, it's just a generic rank 4. You don't actually worry about back roll that much, other than like there can be only 1 in skill drain. Rivalry of Warlords means nothing. Gozen means nothing. So yeah. Excitown Knight. Yeah. Cowboy for game. Dweller. Castell. This is for when you don't have, or when you have to deal with something that's not destroyable. Because otherwise you just run Diamond Dire to out it. If you can't out it with like Castell. Like these are the 2 cards that like they never come up, but when they do, they're really important. Took Big C's. The only 2 links you're running is 1 Borolo, just for outing like weird random garbage. This very rarely comes out. This can honestly be anything. Just this is what I've gone for, just to have, or just so I can have it for outing like Colossus or just something random. And then 1 Underclock. You actually don't need more than one of this. This deck has a weird way of recycling its resources without actually recycling them. Okay, so let me explain. You can just slam this, then put a Trevor underneath it, then loop it back to your extra deck, and then when you go to make your second Trevor, you'll return your own Trevor. And it basically just ensures that you always have an arrow pointing down. So just one of this is fine. You don't need multiple. Land Flinkus is okay, and you could probably cut this for like any Nightmare card just to have an extra draw, but all the Xyz monsters really do that without a discard, so you don't have to do that, but you could. So yeah, it's really basic. So yeah, the deck hasn't really changed much since 2015 or 2014 or whenever this deck was really popular. It's really just Trevor Turbo, but this deck has a little bit of weird intricacies that you can get into. So like, for example, how I mentioned earlier, where you blind first turn or game 1, then game 2 and 3 you go in evenly in hand traps, and then you just Trevor your board or your opponent over and over and over and over again. Just like weird little small stuff that's changed over time just because of power creep. Other than that, this deck's really simple. Just go Deneb, search Altair, and then just auto-play the rest of your deck. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I want to actually talk about this deck in the comments. If anyone has any questions or comments, I would love to talk about it, because I've not actually done any theory crafting with this deck in a very long time. This one's just been on me, where the past few deck profiles like Danger Thunder, Pure Thunder, has been mostly me testing with a lot of the guys before YCS. So yeah, one thing I want to put out before I end the video is that next week is the YCS. Hopefully this will be going out by Wednesday. I'm actually recording this the Thursday before the weekend of the YCS. So yeah, there will probably be no update that video that day because I have the YCS and I'm not going to be recording anything that weekend. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys later. Peace.